And hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And even as we turn the calendar page to July, things are still going on, and we haven't actually been too much into the doldrums of summer, as we used to like to call it here. Getting some great things happening. We'll talk about those today as we've got a crew of four in here today. Case is up watching boats go fast on the Ohio River. And so he is not with us today. And as a side, he texted me at 7:30 this morning and said, guess what? I can't write the article today. So I got pulled in for double duty. He's not with us today, but we do have Daryl. We have Jeff. We have, of course, Jared and me, Paulie. So we should have some fun on the broadcast today. As we like to do, let's kind of catch up with the crew here. Daryl's with us today. Daryl, fourth plans. What's going on?
Hey guys, I'm glad to be here. Finally got a weekend off, so I'm gonna embrace that and do a whole lot of nothing around the house.
Sounds
I
like the
was, I was
best
going to
holiday.
say, how many rounds of golf?
Yeah, I might do some like pitch and practice in the backyard or something, but the goal is not to leave the house.
Fantastic. Do you need a hammock? We've got a hammock we can send over to you.
Oh, I have plenty of things to keep me entertained, but if you're offering up a free hammock, I can't say no.
Yeah, because I think it's still in the basement. We're in the process of cleaning my mother-in-law's house out, and I think it's still down there. If I find it, I'll let you know.
FedEx.
FedEx. Now this is throw it in the back of the F-150 and drop it off in your front yard,
Hey, that works for me.
and then call you 2 hours later. Hey, Daryl, we dumped something off in your yard out there we think you might like. Okay. What is it? I can't tell you. I didn't help get it out. So, all right, Jeff, what's going on with you, my man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just debating what height we want to include for attack Yorkies. What the past has been on that, and what we want to consider it going forward. We were talking about that a little bit before the show started. Trying to remember some of that.
Yes, the old River Cardinal couple tradition of our attack Yorkie crew, which Jared and I seem to think was set at 5'5". Jeff seems to remember 5'6", and discussions have entered
Yeah,
about raising it to 5'7". Some thoughts on that, Jeff?
yeah. Retroactively that pulls in some players like somewhat retroactively, including current Mikasa Robinson and Haley Van Lith. In the past, you're looking at Patricia Barlow would have been included in that.
Of
Um,
course, Dana Evans. Don't forget Dana.
yeah, Dana. Well, Dana Evans was 5'6", so depending on what we would determine the historical value has been potentially. I think these players play in the style that we think of for attack Yorkies and maybe deserve it, but as you pointed out, you moved up to 5'7", you start adding a bunch more players to the list. So I don't know.
It will be one that will be discussed in the Cardinal couple rules and committees. We may have an answer for you this time next year
Yeah,
on our answer on that. We'll see.
we may borrow a page from the NCAA and get an answer in 2032.
Absolutely, but that's of course granted that we submit it in triplicate so that it can make it in
Right.
all three parts of the building.
They don't want to apply to Bellarmine.
Yeah, and they'll ask why aren't you including Bellarmine in your
Right.
laws?
Because they're on probation.
Absolutely, and
Uh,
we've been on secret probation for the last 10 years, anyways.
yeah, might as well have been. Yeah.
All right, very good. Jared in the house with us today. Jared been out taking photos of things, kind of sports related, I guess, with cheer and dance. What's going on with that, Jared?
Yeah, so in the past week, besides some individual work, I've shot and worked with a boutique store, a fitness clothing brand, and then the cheer show that had a couple seasons on Netflix that apparently was extremely popular, went on tour, so to make even more money. One of their stops was here in Louisville, so they were at the KFCM Center on Thursday night, and I'd reached out a few weeks back because I knew some of the cheerleaders from UofL times. I was like, hey, I'd love to photograph this event, and their whoever their rep was that kind of organizes the media stuff was more than happy to let me in, and she just asked if I could provide some photos. So I've been finishing those up to send over to them today, and got to meet some of these cheerleaders that have millions of followers on their social media accounts, and I'm like, hey, give me a good name out here. Put my name out and see if you can build my following and grow my business for me. But no, they were actually all very super nice. You usually assume that people that have a pretty big following on social media and whatnot might not always be the kindest, but these were actually really nice when I got a chance to talk to them and meet them after the event.
I guess the major question here is how many were selfies and how many were not?
Only 3 selfies and 2,500 pictures with actual
Oh
cameras.
my
I
gosh,
got to go.
that blows the proportion out of the water, Jared. What are we thinking?
That's like a football game. I'll have about 3,000 photos to go through, or a women's basketball game could range from anywhere from 500 to 800 photos. So it keeps me busy.
And I don't know if you shared the selfies on socials, Jared, but people need to imagine your tall self next to these tiny girls and how high up your arm is to get you and them in the picture.
I know the one that's kind of like the full body shot. I shared these out on Twitter, I believe, and you could tell the height difference. And I'm 6'5", but some of these kind of girls are less than 100 pounds and have to be really small to be flyers. So
yeah,
I mean, I look like an absolute giant compared to them, but it was quite funny.
Yeah. You also got to remember, Paul, that when Jared's shooting these things, he usually has long lenses. So you want a selfie, he's got to have arms that are 30 feet long to get the lens out far enough.
Oh yeah, the selfies have to go with the phone because the lens would capture maybe the eyeball and nose.
Yeah.
I've heard you've been stopping by Miss Mary's pre-K school too to practice with some of the kids enrolled in there, and of course also we can't forget that anytime that Jared's out there doing something like that, he's got at least 5 or 6 things that indicate his own photography service. So
oh yeah, I had to wear one of my shirts and kind of rep the brand for this event.
They look like nice shirts. I wouldn't know. I didn't get one.
I had a friend make 3 of them for me, red, gray, and black, just so I can kind of wear those on rotation. But I didn't realize how expensive shirts are.
Oh, yeah,
it'd be cool to sell them, but they're a little pricey.
And just to confirm, Jared, people or the girls in this event, there was guys too, but
right, it was there's like 20 something, and I think it's half guys and girls.
These are all people that have already like performed with a program like in college somewhere, right? They're not like young girls.
Correct. So all of these are either recent alums or kind of heading into their final year of cheer, which I think one of them's coming back to UofL for a 5th year, because like the normal NCAA, the NCAA and NDA and everybody is granted a 5th year of eligibility in terms of competition at Daytona.
But basically anybody that went to the event could possibly still be recruited, and it being in Louisville, these are possibly people that could end up in UofL uniforms. So
absolutely, and the UofL cheer coaches were their president, and they got a little shout out from the cheer group, and I think that's excellent because you've got these big time professional cheerleaders that the world is seeing now, and they're giving a shout out to our coaches. I mean, that's big. That's like when you have WNBA players shouting out Jeff Walls for what he did, or you've got some of our women's soccer players and Amina shouting out her ties to UofL. That's huge in terms of recruiting.
And then those cheerleaders see you on the sideline putting in the extra effort, and I'm sure that could sway their decision. So thank you for doing that. It's really awesome.
Oh yeah, and we love all aspects of UofL, whether it's athletics affiliated, non-athletics affiliated, or hybrid. We want to stay in the good spotlight for all of that as much as we can.
And Daryl, we do know the old adage that you're nobody if you haven't had your picture taken by Jared Anderson.
That's how you know it's real.
That's right. If you see your picture with Jared, that's A+. And if he is in the selfie with you, oh my God, that's just like
you've made it.
That means you made it. Oh yeah,
5 aces with deuces wild. Boom, you got the hand. Bam. It's right there. As for me, you're here, fearless leader. It's been kind of a slow week, actually, just trying to avoid this heat a little bit and stuff, but catching up on some other things. The process of eventually getting my late mother-in-law's house ready for sale is ongoing still, which means one of my most favorite things in the world, going through rooms where nobody has touched anything for 5 years and determining what stays, what goes, and what we donate to charity.
Paul, that reminds me of the George Carlin skit.
Yeah.
The stuff.
Yeah. That's a great skit.
I happened to be talking to a Cardinal couple old buddy and friend of mine, Howie Lindsay, the other morning. I was telling him about that. He goes, I've been cleaning stuff up too, Paulie. I recently decided I had to throw away 1,000 copies of the Louisville Sports Report.
Just didn't need to hang on to them anymore.
And it's been, 4 years since he's written for them? But yeah, so I guess after you read the first 5, it was all kind of common, wasn't it? You got a big kick out of that. So yes, if you have junk, declutter, folks. You'll be a lot happier, and even though if it wears you out a little bit, still, the room you've made for more junk is utmost importance. Very much so. Since we don't have Case in the house today, let's see, scheduling and Twitter. I got to go to Jared today with this. He's going to be our man for that, and it should be a pretty easy run for him, actually. So, all right, big guy, take a picture of it and give us some scheduling and Twitter.
Yeah, scheduling, we still don't have anything yet, but as we've all kind of mentioned throughout the week in some of our articles, it was kind of a schedule week as we saw many of our fall sports release their regular season schedules. So I think at this point we're kind of counting down the days, about a month and a half or so till the first few events. Can't come quick enough, I think, for most of us right now. But we'll go ahead, jump ahead to our Twitter accounts. Case, who is absent today, does tweet out as best case scenario. That is BST, no E in the word best. Daryl, who's back with us again, tweets out as Daryl Faust 4. That's just the number 4, not spelling out 4. Paulie tweets out as Cardinal Couple. Jeff's got a couple Twitter accounts. You've got at Jeff McAdams, and then his Card Couple Radio, which will get a lot more active as soon as volleyball starts back up, I believe. And then I tweet out as at Mr. Anderson Jared. And we're through scheduling and Twitter.
Boy, you did that in about as much time as it took for me to switch to one screen to the other on the laptop. Yeah, good job.
I think one calendar note we can throw in here, and it's purely an administrative thing, is I believe, if I'm correct, July 1 marks the date that is the official turnover from one academic and sports season to the next for NCAA and for UofL. Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's also the birthday of UofL and the ACC.
Yep. For the same reason, basically.
Oh,
If
yeah,
the
makes
ACC
sense.
did they send us a cake or anything? Is there anything
No.
to celebrate with? No.
No, we're
But-
old news, Paul.
If they did, they made it in Greensboro and it's still there and they're enjoying it.
But yeah, if y'all can come down and pick it up at the ACC tournament in March, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, might
Now,
be-
yesterday did signal the first day of retirement for longtime
Indeed.
sports information director Kenny Klein.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
he is also, I believe, hosting the golf scramble next month.
Yeah, I
So
think he
he's
still
not
is.
entirely.
Right. So his retirement isn't a full retirement. He's still going to be involved with men's basketball on the sidelines, doing some work, and I think he's going to help out a little bit here and there. I think you can't go from being busy 24/7 to not being busy at all. So he's made the smart decision of still be involved a little bit.
I know he's certainly been quite active in the years we've had Cardinal Couple going on, and certainly I know that he's had a very, very good group of sports information directors for the various sports that have written for him over the years. Some that have been invaluable to us here at Cardinal Couple as far as getting us interviews and getting us items and getting us things that we need to report on for you and giving us maybe a different look than you might normally get out of their eyes. So certainly they all hang on. Unfortunately, it looks like, gosh, that old gang of mine continues to retire your kids, with Getty gone, and obviously with Nick Evans now no longer doing it, and some of the others stepping out. I think Nancy Worley's going to be resigning her post pretty soon.
Retiring, yeah.
Yeah, and
We
retiring.
haven't heard any news on that, but
She's nothing official, but yeah,
yeah,
after 35 years, I think she's made some inklings that
yeah,
you're not going to get another 35 out of me. Sorry,
no,
kids.
And while
That's
we're
a
on,
long time.
while we're talking about Kenny, I'd also like to shout him out for being the guy that invited me out to the golf scramble, and he's the one that pretty much got my hobby started. So I'll always think of him when it comes to golf, and I'm already 3 years in. And when he invited me to the first one in 2019, or my first one in 2019, I let him know I had never played, and but I was gonna start learning, and he was very understanding and willing to let me go out there and play with the people that have been playing. So Kenny Klein's huge impact on my new hobby.
so when you slice one off into the woods, you can get mad at Kenny.
I'll just yell Kenny every time.
Ah! I will say
Oh,
I
Kenny's
have
fault.
I have never actually had the opportunity to speak with Kenny personally. Never had any personal interactions with him directly, but certainly every person out there that I've seen, and I've seen a number of people who have, having been involved at UofL sports Twitter and Cardinal Couple and others, and I've run into a lot of people, and to a person, they've talked about how just genuinely nice and kind and caring he is. So yeah, I've never had the personal experience, but certainly can understand where everybody's coming from on that.
When I first came up with the conceptual idea of starting Cardinal Couple years ago, I did not approach Kenny right off the bat. Instead, I approached Tom Jurich and Julie Herman, who were both very big at the time in U of L sports athletics and such. I got resplendent and very encouraging, positive remarks from them on doing so. I think it was Julie may have mentioned you might want to let Kenny Klein know what you're doing. And so I did drop an issue to him and didn't hear from him. But about 3 months later, he did kind of acknowledge what I was doing. And I left it with, is there anything I can ever do for you, let me know. That was nice of him to say that. And I do appreciate that. Unfortunately, I did have a major run in with him a few years back where a former sports information director for Louisville erroneously blamed something on him that was this person's fault. I took it up with Kenny, who, correctly so, stood up for his position and said, "Hey, I didn't do this, Paul. This was done by so and so." I was like, "Well, I'm glad you got that straightened out for me, Kenny. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry that I accused you of something wrongly." We've been kind of hot and cold since then, but certainly Louisville is going to miss him for what he's done, gang. There is no doubt about that. And to replace a guy like Kenny Klein, boy, where do you turn? What do you do? Who takes that role? I don't know.
I think it's gonna be hard to find just one person who can do what Kenny did because of how much he did, and he really did not sleep at times because of how busy he was. And he was great with just making sure anybody who wanted to get involved with U of L sports media, he would at least give them the opportunity and in some way to get out to some games when he could afford to do so. But yeah, I mean, the man ran around like crazy. I thought I was busy until I met Kenny Klein, and then he kind of puts my schedule to shame.
I think that he's earned the rest, or at least not a total rest, at least a lessening of things that he does. And I think anything that he does from now on will be things that he wants to do, not that he's contracted to do by job title or description. So that's always fun when you can live like that, gang, and say, "I'm doing this because I want to, not because I have to." Okay, there is a big difference there, believe me.
Amen.
All right, we've discussed that probably ad nauseum, but a good deal here a little bit, and let's kind of move into the meat and bones of the show. I guess the big thing, maybe the largest thing that happened this week as far as Louisville women's sports went, is Jeff Walls announced that the Cards now have added a 6'5" postgraduate center to their roster for 22-23. Josie Williams comes in from Utah Valley State after her 4 years of eligibility. She's headed to Louisville for a year. This is a big move for the Cards. We hear a lot of times, gang, about Louisville not having much height. 6'5". I think she led the conference in rebounding and scoring her last season at Utah Valley State. This is huge, Daryl. This is very huge.
Yeah, I'm excited. I feel like the last few years, these players that come in for a year, fans attach themselves to them pretty quickly, and we want more out of them. But we got to appreciate what we have, and Coach Walls is starting to pick up on that idea that we need to get these bigger women in here that can bang around under the basket with the Aaliyah Bostons, and a 6'5" Josie Williams can possibly do that. She has a good summer, getting some weight on her and some strength under the basket. It could be a nice formula for this team. I'm very excited. If you haven't read it yet, Paul had a good post this morning, just kind of previewing the roster. And I love the way that you set it up, Paul, with whether it was by their number that they're going to be your favorite player, or their height, or whatever. It got you excited because you see names that we've been accustomed to, like our Haley Van Lith and our Olivia Cochrans, but then you see the list of the new names that we can get excited for, and I'm just itching for some basketball. I know it's months away, but I'm excited to see what Coach Walls can put together.
And Daryl, I know a lot of times the casual women's basketball fan will ask a question of me like, "Hey, who is that number 11 out there? She's pretty good." Or, "Who's that little girl that's playing out there with Haley?" Well, obviously, in either situation, you got to kind of wool gather here. So, a little girl playing with Haley. Dana Evans? No. But to put it out there in that kind of aspect, so fans will know it. What I think is pretty cool is they've already assigned the freshman numbers, so we'll have
That's
that.
the exciting part when you come in, is to get your number. I did notice no number 4s though, so that spot is still open in my heart.
Well, they're holding that for you, Daryl. I think they found a year of eligibility for you. So not only can you join the roster as their 16th player, but you can also officially be a Tack Yorkie, and we're
I
excited
can
about
rebound.
it.
I'll go out there and fight. That's all.
You and Casa Robinson going tooth and nail for that loose ball in a 30-point blowout. I love it. So let's talk a little bit more about Josie here. And Jared, this is a player that's going to come in and obviously add some needed height to the cards, but we were all kind of wondering and thinking that Walls was pretty much done with the recruiting process for the 22-23 season, right? He had 14 players on the roster here. It looked like he had added a little height here. Morgan Jones as a 6'2" guard is certainly a good move. A couple of the freshmen have got good height. How much of a surprise and how much did this catch you off guard, the addition of Josie?
I wasn't expecting Louisville to get anybody else at the time, so I was like, oh, well, we got another player. But you have to look at it as sometimes if the opportunity presents itself and you've got a player that you just can't pass up, then take it. And I guess you kind of run into that situation with some of the different professional level drafts, and you may have your eyes on like a certain player or position, and then you look and you see, oh well, the just best overall player might be the better one to go after. And I think he was just like, this is one of the best overall players that's out there right now that's still open, and let's go in and snag her before somebody else goes after her, and then we have to go up against her in the schedule in the future. So I think it's good, and then it's just another play on the roster that if you run into some unfortunate incidents of illnesses or injuries, you've got another player that you can fall back on and continue to develop and throw in at a moment's notice.
Or ACC officials as well. Yes. Another
challenging
thing.
I think we need to start recruiting some officials to do ACC for us.
Jeff, we gained a 6'5", but it looks like we may have lost a 6'5", not entirely, a 6'5" that's going to concentrate full-time on volleyball in Sydney Shetton, but we gained a 6'5" in Josie Williams. Just discuss that a little bit.
So like Sydney Shetton had, as far as I understand it, had intended to play both sports. We knew that the first year she was only going to play basketball, and then was going to join the volleyball team as well. But my understanding was that her intention had been to play both. I think there's a very real possibility that she saw the caliber of the basketball player in play, and that she saw that she was probably not going to be able to have a significant impact there, and that she was getting out recruited, outclassed there, and just decided to focus on the volleyball. I have only seen her play volleyball in spring, this spring when she played some. And she does a fine job there, but I don't know that she's going to be a starter there, at least not this year. So I don't know. I think she's probably looking to find her place. And obviously, we wish her well. I'm excited to see her develop as a volleyball player. But it sounds like that's probably what she's decided to do at this point. And I can't blame her on that. It looks like it's going to be kind of a crowded in the paint for the Cards there in basketball. So yeah, that's fair enough.
6'5" on the front line in volleyball is certainly not a
Yeah.
bad at all.
Yeah, not at all. I'll go back to the Final Four match in Columbus when we were playing against Wisconsin, and they had frontline attackers that were 6'8" and 6'9". So okay, we can use we have a 6'3" Maya Tillman, 6'2" maybe, I don't remember, right? Maybe Anna Stevenson going up blocking, and they're very, very, very good blockers. And man, Dana Recchi was just hitting right over top of them in that fifth set. So having some height is a good thing. So if you can get the quality play along with it.
And the Wisconsin women's basketball coach was chewing on her shoulders, going, "What are they doing out there?
Yeah.
They should be on my team. Come on."
Yeah. Really glad Dana Redke graduated. However, that 6'9" outside that they had is like, I think she's a sophomore. So good grief.
Back a little bit to Williams here. What did she do in her 4 years at Utah Valley State? She accomplished some pretty cool things for the Wolverines gang. She's 6th all-time in scoring with 1,221 points, 3rd all-time in rebounding with 783, and in her 4 years, she had 110 blocks. She was also 2nd all-time with a 52.1 shooting percentage and her 7.4 rebounding average per game and 77.6 free throw percentage, ranked 3rd in school history. We'll take each one of those numbers. Glowing reports for her. Now, how does it translate out from the WAC to the ACC? That is what we will find out in time, I'm sure.
And another thing, Paul, I'm excited to see her personality. I've tried to find some things on her social media or from Utah Valley's website and just trying to see a little bit of her game in video. It looks like they don't have as much video presence at Utah Valley State as they would at UofL. So it's still kind of a question mark. I'm hoping we get the fierceness that, of a Sam Furing down there under the basket, but I'm sure that Coach Walls is going to open her eyes to a new side of the game.
Oh, absolutely.
West Coast basketball and East Coast basketball are just totally different, and I'm just hoping the translation is there for her and she gets the most out of this year, and hoping that she might even have the same goals in mind as Emily Angsler did. So
I was just about to add that maybe a 15-minute phone conversation with Emily would do wonders for her, as far as kind of opening those eyes to what is ahead for her.
I'm sure it's exciting. And has anyone, I'm sure the coach or the women's basketball schedule is not out yet, but we don't know if Coach Walls is going to get a game out there for her to go back to her home and her family to see her, but I'm sure that's in the works too.
Yeah, you got to wonder. I mean, our West Coast trips are maybe once every 2 or 3 years. I think we were just out there last year with some games out there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
If she's going to be here for 1 year, I would be very surprised if we add Utah Valley, Valley State to the schedule for 22-23, and she'll be gone after that. But I certainly wouldn't mind seeing us make a couple of more trips out there. I think it's a good team building experience, Daryl, to be able to go on, a 7-day, 10-day road trip.
Yeah.
And be with, having meals together, doing things off basketball time together, traveling together, those kind of things can only help build team chemistry. But Another thing that I think will be interesting, and maybe you've got some thoughts on this too. We're bringing in basically 7 players who dressed up and played for us last year, and 8 who didn't.
Hmm.
Chemistry could be a bit of a touch and go thing to begin with. Would you think?
Absolutely. But if anyone can pull them together, it's Coach Walls. I feel like the teams in the last few years have expressed that um, as much as anyone. They say that we're all in this together, and we all have a goal in mind. And Coach Walls is pretty good about evaluating personalities and will they blend with the rest of the team. And I don't think he would pursue anyone that wouldn't mesh well.
I'd have to agree. And Jared, is it kind of a case of where you take a look at Haley, you take a look at Casa, and you say, go out there and be my leaders?
Yeah, you need your returners to be the ones to step up and be the leaders, kind of get everybody on track together, and just lead that whole getting players to mesh and having these non-official team activities, whether they go out to the mall or they go bowling or they all just go out and get dinner together, just something, have a game night. Just it's good ways to mesh and gel, and it really will show on the court the better connected they are.
We'll certainly find out more as the season gets closer. But as for right now, it looks like to be a very strong Cardinal lineup leading into the 22-23 season game. All right, as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, we have some schedules on board now for the 22 season. I think we'll just go ahead and start with women's soccer since that one was out yesterday in Daryl's article, and it looks like we have a 16 game slate, 8 regular season home games, and 1 preseason exhibition game, and playing 9 of our 16 matches against teams that reached the NCAA tournament last year. So that's over 50% of tournament bound teams. This is a schedule that looks like it could be pretty tough for the Cards here. And you just got to wonder with so much strength in the ACC women's soccer, Daryl. Uh, Louisville is going to be hard pressed, I think, to reach 500 again this year.
Yeah, I could agree. And if you look at last year's schedule, there's a handful of games that it was just one goal difference, and that one goal is just a huge difference maker in the overall record. And this is just a team and a program that is kind of struggling to get over that hump in recent years, but um, I I'm excited to see if they can get over the 500 and get some postseason under their belt too, because it's been a while.
Case being our kind of granted our women's soccer expert here on the Cardinal couple staff, but I'm going to go to you on this one, Jeff. There are some really good players back next year, but there is one big question mark that the Cards do have.
Goalkeeper.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah.
The Gabs is gone. What saith now?
I don't have an answer to that. We obviously have a goalkeeper on the a couple of goalkeepers on the roster listed. Aaron Floyd, I think, is an incoming freshman, and then Olivia Pratapus is a redshirt freshman. So like, there's people there that are listed in that position. So it's not like we're going to be, grabbing a backfielder and say, here, put on different color jerseys and do something a little bit out of position. But that's yeah. I mean, it's definitely not a great deal of experience there. So having making that transition from where you had a Gabby Gonzalez there who was definitely a team leader, who had a lot of experience, who was very highly skilled, highly experienced, to get us to players that have not really played much, if at all, on the college level. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to fill there. Look, let's hope our back line defenders can step up and provide them a little protection.
I'm kind of worried about offense too, though.
Yeah, Jared, I was just about to ask you about that. Defense, there's going to be some questions and challenges, but offense, obviously you've got to score more points than the other team to win the game, right? Who's going to be scoring those points for us?
That's kind of the question in the air right now. I thought late in the season last year, Emma Hiscock really stepped up and started to showcase her skill. She's on the roster to return. Your other three top scorers, whether you're looking at by goals or total points, Julia Simon is transferred out. Nina Nicosia is transferred out. Delaney Snyder's graduated after using her 5th year of eligibility. So that's tough. And then not far below that, you've got Maisie Whitsett, who played as a center back, and she recorded a couple goals and 6 total points. You've got Sarah Hernandez, who's up there, a couple goals, 5 total points.
But
So
she's
your
a
center
defender.
backs, right? You shouldn't be relying on your defenders to be
Yeah.
some of your top returning scorers. So that's kind of a concern there. I think Anouk Denton may have a little bit more of an important role in the offense, as she'll probably move towards more to an offensive midfielder instead of a defensive midfielder. We'll have to play by ear on that. I think we're really going
She's
to look
also listed as a defender, but yeah.
She may end up kind of transitioning more over.
Yeah.
I thought Morgan Bentley showed some bright spots last year when she was healthy. But other than that, you've lost a lot of your scores. So you're relying on a freshman to come in, a transfer to come in, or somebody who just really didn't see a lot of playing time to really step it up and take over. So it's a little concerning at this point in the year. But maybe we'll see somebody get their confidence early with some of the lesser opponents with the non-conference schedule that can maybe feed into ACC play and get a spark.
A trend, I'm not going to say it's a definite, but a trend over the last 2 or 3 years in Karen Ferguson Days' recruiting has been pretty much located and been centered around our area here, guys. Some great recruits out of Ballard, for example. Some other recruits that played here locally on the level. Assumption comes to mind right away with Haley Snyder, who was a really good player there. A couple good girls out of South Oldham, Brooke Dardano and Evelyn Palienza, both kind of midfielders that could have some attack skills. Louisville soccer on the women's level is also reaching new highlights and also a lot of popularity out there. Plus, we've got the pro team in town now. Daryl, this all adds up to kind of looking like, are we going to depend more and more on local girls as this goes on?
Hey, that's not a bad plan. I feel like we've kind of established the soccer fan base and the idea of this town being a soccer town. So we've got girls coming from local schools. I see some Ballard and Assumption on the roster, and I like to keep them local. I think it's great marketing strategy for both U of L and racing.
Right.
And it's just a good formula.
You take a look just here at the early part of the schedule here. We can kind of go through these. We're starting out with the exhibition game against Cincinnati. And please explain to me how we do exhibitions as compared to regular season games. It just doesn't make any sense to me what we schedule as an exhibition compared to a regular season game. If anybody has an answer, please let me know. I'd be happy to entertain your thoughts on it. But we're playing an exhibition game against Cincinnati. It's a team that we've played.
I was going to say this I-71 is going to get a workout. It's the first part of the season.
Absolutely. You've got Northern Kentucky. You've got Xavier. And those are 3 of the first 4 games.
Yeah, Cincinnati, Xavier, Northern Kentucky, all within
USC
16 days of each other,
USC's coming to town. I doubt they get on 71, but you never know how they decide to come down. The Cards, of course. And then they play Memphis and Virginia, along with James Madison. Not really sure what's up with that, but they are going to Harrisonburg, Virginia, which I've never been to take on not only Memphis, but also to take on JMU. Got to wonder, is this some kind of AAC, big ACC cross thing, or what's going on here? I'm not sure. But, so I don't know. You take a look at this early schedule. I'd be happy if we could go, I'm going to say if we can go 500. 3-3 in these first 6 games, I'll be tickled with that. And if we can beat Memphis, I'll be happy with that too.
Anytime you beat Memphis is a College
in
football
any
celebration.
sport anywhere. That's
Yeah.
for sure. IU, things get a little bit tougher when the Cards face them. Miami always a good opponent for us, but a Miami team that hasn't been all that great in past years. So certainly having both of those schools coming into Lynn Stadium could be advantageous for us. But then, boy, listen to this killer road, Jared. Florida State on the road, Virginia on the road, and then we go to Pittsburgh on the road. That's three in a row right there that look pretty killer to me, son. And if you get through those three, guess what? Clemson comes to town. They're pretty decent too.
Yeah, it's it's not a pretty schedule by any means. Um, the ACC schedule is just absolutely brutal, and a lot of these teams are easily some of the favorites to be in the Final Four, as you mentioned, like Florida State, Virginia. Uh, North Carolina is another one. You're going to see all three of those will probably ride the top five all year. Miami should be ranked for most of the year. I think Notre Dame is kind of getting back to their old days. Duke's starting to get back to their old days. So you're going to see more ranked opponents than unranked opponents once you get to conference play. Non-conference, yeah, Memphis was ranked top 25 all year, advanced to the second round of the NCAA tournament. Some of these other ones, though, James Madison, Northern Kentucky, Xavier, USC, those at this point are going to be must-wins. You can't afford to lose any matches against teams that are going to be of your skill set level or maybe just slightly above you, or those even that are below you. But it's not going to be easy. And at this point, with the no overtime rules, I am kind of concerned that we're going to see more of the kind of that prevent defense, especially as you get later into the match, and just settle for a tie instead of going out for a win. When some wins may be rather crucial.
Just to kind of let folks know, most of the ACC slate is a Thursday, Saturday kind of thing, although there are a couple of Sundays thrown in there for good measure as well for the
And I
ACC.
believe Senior Day will be a Saturday evening against Notre Dame. I
I was
don't
gonna
see
say
them
that. I was gonna
doing
ask
Senior
about
Day on
that.
a Thursday night. So
Yeah.
I would go ahead and anticipate October 15th for Senior Day.
Yeah, because I doubt they would do it on the 27th against North Carolina on a Thursday. But they might. You never know. It just depends. I think they would probably want it against Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that happens. Just one more thing on women's soccer, real quick. Guess where Allison Whitfield's headed to? Anybody? Anybody? What's
Yeah.
Allison doing? She's going to Racing Louisville, guys.
signed with
Jeff, what about
Racing.
that?
That's fantastic, right? I laughed when Daryl said something about the marketing. I mean, you see Whitfield joining Amina Ekic there, who those two have been friends for life, basically. They started playing together at a very young age in club soccer, then all the way through Emmanuel High School here at UofL, and now Whitfield joins, at least temporarily, the roster at Racing to kind of be reunited with Amina. The racing marketing crew's got to love that. That's got to be a lot of fun. But yeah, great for her. More broadly in the program, you've also got UofL, the USLW, which is the development league for the women, that has like a Nick Denton involved with it. And Jared, Daryl, help me out. Paul, who else has joined that USLW team that's still on our roster? Right, that's also
I'm
pretty.
gonna have to go back and look at that because
Right.
there was
Yeah.
actually
There were
quite a
several.
few.
Yeah,
There are several in there that would be pretty good at it, I do think. And
yeah. I know Nick
they
Denton
have been.
was, but I don't remember who else it was. But there were several that were current UofL players that were playing. It's obviously a non-professional position, but with this Racing Louisville City program, the development league program. So, yeah, man, it's very cool. Like you said, the developing the local soccer talent as in developing Louisville as one of the center of gravities of soccer is great. It's one of those things, rising tide lifts all boats sort of thing.
Should be a very interesting rest of the summer for Louisville women's soccer as they prepare for that August 12th opener on a Friday night in an exhibition game against Cincinnati. So make sure and get out to Cindy Lynn Stadium for that one. Should be a lot of fun, and maybe the temperature will actually drop below 90 for that one.
Yeah.
We can only hope, right? Also, out in the scheduling world out there that we've had at, we did get a schedule for volleyball. How about volleyball? Wow.
Yeah, we actually talked about this a little bit last week, kind of spur of the moment. But to add a little bit to that, one thing that as I was looking back at it later, and with the Sunday article when I was looking at it there, and then I think Jared, I think you covered it later in the week as well in a little more depth. The similarities between this year's schedule and last year's, there's some definite echoes across the year to year. You look at the tournament up in South Dakota this year, it's the same participants that we had in the tournament that was played in Louisville last year for the Cardinal Classic. That Purdue plus Xavier or Lipscomb, that pair of matches, that same pairing and setup was done at Xavier last year. It's going to be in Louisville this year. And then that whole series where you had Purdue, last year we had Purdue, Xavier, Kentucky, Nebraska as 4 matches in a row. Nebraska closing that off with that national powerhouse team. That this year is going to be Purdue, neither Xavier or Lipscomb, probably Xavier, because again, probably Xavier's going to win that game against Lipscomb first. But so it'll probably be Purdue, Xavier, Kentucky, Stanford, with another national powerhouse at the end of that. So just really a lot of echoes between last year's schedule and this year and how it went. And, turned out pretty well for us last year. So I'm okay with
That's what
that.
I was going to say. If it works, it works. Let's stick with it.
Yeah.
Improve on it. And I think it's smart.
A schedule that features 4 games before just the month of September. Fantastic for the Cards there, as they, as mentioned, played some of the same schools they played last year, but some new ones involved in there. This is a team that has certainly captured the hearts and minds, I think, Jared, of Louisville women's sports fans with their heroic and oh so close run last year, and certainly with a lot of talent returning. When you take a look at this schedule coming up for Louisville early on, it looks like they could have some good things going on. But let's take maybe a little more look at the team itself coming back, Jared. This is a team that, although graduation did affect them in a few certain areas, man, they've got some talent back in that's fantastic and out of this world.
Oh, absolutely. You've got your 5th-year player and Claire Chaussee coming back, and she's certainly in her later half of her career has really stepped up and been a key performer at times for the Cards. You've got Anna DeBeer, who we've come to just see be able to absolutely destroy the ball, no matter where she is on the court, even from the back row kills that I think we get excited over. You've got Iko Jones, who's, I believe in terms of school-wise, it's in her 4th or 5th year already, but she's still got a couple more years of eligibility, and just how much of a ball of energy she is on the court, and she's so fun to watch and exciting. Back row, you've got Elena Scott returning and just stepped up and was an incredible libero for a freshman after transitioning from a completely different position altogether. Exciting to have there. You've got Maya Tillman back as a middle blocker and just some of the great things that she had done last season. You've got, it looks like Alexa Hendricks is coming back for your defensive row. I think Mia Stander has graduated.
Yeah, she graduated.
I believe so we might have a little room in the back row for a player to pop in or so. I think we'll see
Bartlett back there too.
Okay, Adam Bartlett will return and get back. I think Nina Mbanu will have a increased role this year, and I think Cece Rush with her serving is going to have an increased role as well. And it looked like, based off of kind of like the off season, Kara Cressy had a really strong showing. So I'm curious to see how much of a role she'll have and impact she's going to have with this team. But it looked like she's really developed and improved a lot.
She did. Yeah, I watched. Obviously, I watched a bit of the spring play. Kara did quite well in the spring. I suspect our starting middle, however, will be opposite of Amaya Tillman. Will be Pegram Kong, who also developed quite a bit through last season and the off season. But it could be close. There could be a position battle there between Pegrin and PK and Kara. So that'll be interesting to see what develops there.
We did not see a lot of PK last year, Jeff. She also went to school with somebody we know very, very well on a different roster, but still certainly a very, very good player in her own right. But PK is going to be new, I think, to most of our fans of volleyball. Talk a little bit about those strengths.
Yeah, she is out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. She went to the same school as Maggie DeYoung, maybe. I'm pretty sure played in the same club with Maggie DeYoung, obviously a little younger. Sydney Shetland, I think it was at a different school and a different club up there, but they knew each other. So, we were just talking about the schedule. Obviously, that opening weekend up in South Dakota will be a homecoming for both of them to some degree. So that'll be fantastic for them to be able to do that as well. But yeah, she's a phenomenally very long, very tall, not very tall, but tall, 6'3". Long, kind of slim build, but can jump just amazing. Amazing jumper, and is really building on that athleticism to be able to in that middle position. You got to be able to move laterally to move from a middle block to closing out that outside block, and she really did a really fine job with that in the spring. So that's exciting to see her develop. That's Dan Meskey's world as the assistant coach, associate head coach, coaching and blocking. So I know he's working a lot with her on that. So it should be a lot of fun.
Daryl, we're hoping for another Final Four out of the squad. Just your thoughts on kind of watching from aside here, looking in on the squad. They look like they've got the talent to get back to another Final Four.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about how long Coach Busman Kelly's been here and her impact on the team and getting them to mesh well and build off of last year. So I'm excited to watch her on the sidelines because I feel like she is an integral part of the success that they've had. And she's a great representative for UofL altogether and the volleyball program. And she's been in these situations, these high pressure and pretty far in the postseason. So I'm really excited to see the next season of Coach Danny.
Seats will be at a premium, obviously, in the L&N Federal Credit Union. So you better get in there early, kids, if you want to catch some home games. I think, Jeff, it's usually pretty much a sellout just about every time. And
it's pretty close. Just on season tickets alone, they get pretty close to it. And so by the time you get any of the high quality teams that are coming in there that are big draws, they're almost always sellouts. So
Jared and I in favor of moving this, of course, over to Broadbent Arena, but I don't think that UofL will be in agreement with us on that. So
Paul's getting the call to make that happen right now.
Absolutely. That's probably Broadbent Arena calling me right now to let me know, hey, we've got some openings over here.
I was going to say they're listening.
Not a bad arena, and it's right there, still close to campus. It would be a good size in terms of wanting to house a good crowd. You're not interfering with Bellarmine using Freedom Hall. The lighting has actually improved a little bit over the years, but I also think they just made a couple lighting upgrades to L&N Federal Credit Union Arena, so I don't see them making any changes or moving anytime soon.
Sonia just took that call. It was Jeff Walls indicating that he was not going to play volleyball this year for the Cardinals. Darn it, Jeff. Well, let's look at one more schedule here before we get out of here today, and that's our field hockey schedule for Louisville, a field hockey team that went 16-4 last year. Was a perfect 6-0 in ACC regular season competition. We'll kind of try to forget that the Cards ended the season on a 2-game losing streak, okay? Because this was a very good team. But let's take a look at it for what it is, Jared. One big question here. Who's going to stand in between them pipes?
Justine Sowry's going to suit back up and play for us at this point. It's if you look at the listed roster right now, it's a fairly small roster. A lot of folks had graduated. Some of them had returned for that final year of eligibility and have since gone on to do other things. And you've had a couple people where career and life opportunities were too good to pass up. So it's kind of diminished the roster a little bit in terms of what you like to see for field hockey, where substitutions are fairly common, and not having any list goalkeepers on the roster reminds me of, I believe, was it Stanford field hockey last year? Or somebody out on the West Coast didn't have an actual goalkeeper for the longest time. And they actually played without a keeper in many of their matches. I would prefer not to go that route, but I guess it's always a possibility.
We've all
But
heard Paul rant about going empty goal, so imagine doing a whole game that way.
I have
yeah, only 15 active players on the roster, and a couple of them have been nursing minor injuries, and some of them have had in the past some fairly rough injuries that at this point you really have to pray and hope that they don't re-aggravate any of those, as you're on not a skeletal crew, but you're kind of flirting with it at this time.
Yeah, my dislike for empty goal or substitutional player, not actually a goalkeeper in goal, is legendary. I believe several years ago it was. I ranted about that on a field hockey loss, and much to my surprise, 2 weeks later, our speaker at Sportsman Supper Club was Justine Sowery. As I went around selling 50-50 tickets, I saw a coach sitting at the table with our president and said, "This could be awkward." But she got a big chuckle out of it, and she goes, Paul, you always could have gotten back there and blocked a couple shots for us. And I'm like, no, I just don't think I could have bent down that low. I couldn't have done it.
You've got the height to take up a lot of space, Paul.
It's true, too. Yeah, I could probably do that.
That doesn't help much in field hockey, though,
The
because
thing
you have to
about
keep
it
the
is,
ball
yeah,
low.
they shoot low on them sometimes, Daryl. I just don't know if I can get that much further past the knees.
Kind of required to. You can't really intentionally lift it up. So
we look at the roster here. There's obviously some names that we know and we remember very well on this field hockey team that they're coming back. And Amy Plum, obviously. Emily Kazmarzik is back. India Reed's back. Amanda Tremonti is back. All very essential players for the team. You've got Katie Snyder, who can underestimate her importance to this team last year. My gosh, she's back as a graduate player. Maddie Tabor back. Also Julia Coweiser. So there is talent back here, Jared. But once again, the question remains: who's going to play that defense? Who's going to play that goal? Any thoughts you might have?
On goal right now, I really don't know, because you don't have a lot of players to pull from as is. At this point, you're probably looking at someone who's not going to see as much playing time in general take the opportunity to try and suit up and see if they'll be pretty decent back there in goal, which, at this point, it's almost better to have somebody rather than nobody. A contested shot is much better than a wide open goal, but even then, I'm not really sure. I'd have to hope that we get some transfers coming in. It looks like we've only got one freshman on the listed roster, so
I kind of wonder if this hasn't been fully updated yet.
That's what I'm hoping, because something seems a little odd, just how small and slim it is.
Because I know, like, volleyball has not yet been updated. So
the schedule in itself, 5 of the first 6 games on the road for the Cards, and hockey starting up at Miami in a scrimmage. Once again, my favorite thing is scrimmages compared to actual competitive games. We're going to scrimmage Miami University on their home field. That's fine. No problem.
What if I just dress the part and just go stand out in the goal and then hope that Justine walks by one day and just says, "Sign her up"?
I think if we dressed you up properly and then had somebody lob a bunch of easy shots into you, Daryl, where you could knock them away and use a little flair maybe and do it.
It's all about passion.
Absolutely.
If you play
Add
the
the
part,
tennis
you can.
player grunt to it, and you'll be all right.
Shouting down Katie Snyder and say, "Bring that stuff in here, Kay. Come on."
But listen, field hockey is one of those sports that I just where these girls get the bravery to stand in front of that ball is actually
That is a
pretty
hard
impressive.
ball coming
Yeah,
at you
it is
really,
kind of
really
scary.
fast.
And one of the names that stood out to me for somebody that they could throw in the goal was India Reid. She stood out a lot last year in the matches that I watched as being a very key part of the defense for UofL. So I would put her back there if this roster is confirmed. She's a local talent, and I was really she stood out a lot. So give me a 17 jersey. I'm her biggest fan.
There you go. We'll see if she gets the nod at it. The Cards will be facing Bellarmine for their first home scrimmage as compared to a real game on August the 21st. It's a Sunday. No problem with Bellarmine last year. Shouldn't be much of a problem this year. I did notice, gang, there is no red and black scrimmage lined up this year.
Probably because they don't have enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's could be
Yeah,
bad.
they've been struggling to get enough alumni in recent years.
Yeah, and the
You've
alumni.
got plenty that show up, but that's a lot of running and work for someone who hasn't been training in several months.
That is for sure. So they have dropped that from the schedule, but we'll actually go to Pennsylvania, University Park up there, for a couple games against Bucknell and Penn State, and then head down to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. But they're not playing the Tar Heels this early. No, they're going to play Pennsylvania and Princeton down there. Now, why would they do this? I'll tell you exactly why. It's the old affable Ivy League versus ACC Challenge Cup. Yes.
That could be a pretty decent overall competition in field hockey.
Two pretty good teams in Penn and Princeton, no
Right.
doubt. Then a long home streak opens up for Louisville, where I think they get 5 games in a row of key note there. Indiana coming into town, North Carolina coming into town, and Michigan coming into town on Sunday, September the 11th. The Cards and Michigan definitely do not like each other in field hockey, gang. That could be a very fun one to go attend. A noon start for that one. Virginia, who knocked us out of the ACC championships last year's on the road. We also say in the state to visit VCU. And then the North Carolina swing, where Wake Forest has played. We go over to Liberty to take on the Flames and end the season actually with a couple of games on the road at Syracuse and Cornell before hosting Boston College as our final home game of the season. All that before Halloween, believe it or not, guys. How about that? Just some early thoughts looking at the schedule, Jeff?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, even non-conference here, you've got some pretty tough teams in there. Miami of Ohio is okay. That's of course that's just a scrimmage, but like you said, you got that Penn State, Penn, Princeton, JMU stretch that are all pretty decent teams. Michigan's a pretty decent team. This is going to be a tough schedule, and then that's of course then you get into conference play with the insane ACC field hockey conference level of play. So yeah, this is going to be brutal.
There will be some teams that will be looking to get a little revenge on the Cards for knocking them off during the regular season last year in some very close games here. Jared, I think this could be another 16-4 team if things go right, and maybe even better.
I think it's possible. Just the whole undefeated ACC is going to be tough. I mean, even North Carolina in most years doesn't go undefeated in the ACC in field hockey. So I thought it was just an excellent year when it came to conference play, but you may see a slip and fall here and there with conference play, and that happens. There's no big deal. I mean, everybody that's going to be in the ACC is probably going to be ranked in the top 25 for a majority of the season, so I'm not too worried. I think some of these neutral site locations, like when you have Bucknell up in Pennsylvania, and when you have Pennsylvania and Princeton down in North Carolina, I think you really need to focus on getting some of those neutral site victories, since you're not going up against some of those home crowds. But playing at Penn State's going to be a really tough one. Playing at Liberty's another really tough school when it comes to several sports. They're kind of sneakily really good at a lot of sports, and you've got to be able to go in and earn some of these victories, because the field hockey NCAA tournament is only 16, 18 teams big, so each loss can be pretty crucial in knocking you out of potential tournament play.
A lot of fun lined up for this fall with all these sports. So certainly get down to campus and make it yourself a part of the action out there for sure. I think volleyball is what got a nominal fee to get in, Jeff. Is that right?
Yeah, there's volleyball's ticketed. Soccer is going back to being ticketed, right? So they have tickets again.
I think so.
I think so. Field hockey is free. So yeah, make your decisions. Obviously, I'll be a volleyball. I'm a season ticket holder, but yeah, I'm going to try and make it out to some field hockey games as well. Always a lot of fun.
Did I miss soccer going back to being ticketed this year?
I don't know.
I haven't seen any more on it. I know it was being discussed, guys, so I'm not sure.
And I know they moved away from it during COVID, but I thought they were planning on moving back.
They haven't updated the website. It still says free admission for 2021 season, so that doesn't really do much.
Needing an SID for that sport, obviously, as well.
Yep.
To see, we'll get some more information loose on that. But hey, guys, we have already hit and passed the witching hour here of noon. So let's go ahead and transgress us into some final thoughts, shall we? Let's start out with Daryl. Daryl, what final thoughts you got for us today?
I'm excited about this coming seasons for all the programs. It's there's an opportunity to build off how far they were able to go last season and get fans excited. And I know we're still in a COVID world, but a lot of us can feel comfortable getting back out there to support these programs that put so much effort into representing the university. And it's exciting to look forward to, and hope everyone has a safe and fun holiday weekend. Looks like the weather is going to be pretty reasonable.
Absolutely. Wear shorts, kids. Wear shorts. It's warm out there.
And sunscreen.
Yes, and don't forget your sunscreen. That's Jared, what you got for me?
Yeah, I'm just excited that some of these schedules are finally out, so I can start putting those onto my calendar and planning out these conflicts that I'm going to have, where some teams are going to be at home on the same day at the same time. But also just hopeful that whoever our new multiple SIDs that we have to hire to replace ones that have retired or left are as lenient and as kind as the ones that we've lost, and will continue to grant us media credentials to cover all these sports.
Yep,
I would certainly hope that that'll happen, and we'll certainly endeavor to do so once I have some names that I can actually contact and say, hey, I'm with Cardinal Couple. This is what we've done. This is what we'd like to do again this year. Can you accommodate us, please? If not, we're going to send that 500-pound gorilla down to campus and recap on each facility.
And that gorilla being me.
Yeah. We're going to send down Daryl Faust 4 as an FOR. Daryl Faust for destruction. Yeah. All right, Jeff, what you got going on, Bubba?
Yeah, we referenced Racing Louisville earlier. They have a really kind of a fun game tomorrow that they're going to be playing tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock. They're playing the Orlando Pride, which is always an interesting game. Orlando's very good team. This one, it is an away game, though, so this is not downtown at Land Family Stadium. It is on CBS Sports, so hopefully you can pick it up there. But it is not in Orlando either. It is in Daytona. And by in Daytona, I mean it is in the infield of the Daytona Motor Speedway. They have built a soccer pitch in the infield to host this at the Daytona Motor Speedway. I'm sure this will be a celebration of all things USA and very nationalistic and all of that. But kind of a cool venue to play a soccer match in. And as we mentioned earlier, obviously, Amina Ekic and Allison Whitfield both on the roster right now. A potential opportunity to see them on the field together again. Maybe we'll see. We'll probably see Amina on the field. She's been playing pretty regularly, but whether Whitfield gets on there or not, we'll see.
So are you saying Case is getting the best of both worlds with soccer and NASCAR?
Hey, I'm just hoping they're not racing at the same time the soccer match is going on, okay? Because, I mean, you get somebody chasing one too far out of bounds there, and all of a sudden, you got out a caution flag, right? He had to swerve to miss the midfielder, ran into the wall, destroyed the car, and the midfielder unearthed.
Ball ricochets off a car and goes in the goal. Hey!
Yeah. Hey, you can't do that. And let's go to the monitors. Final thoughts. Just want to extend a congratulations to Gabby Leon, of course, obviously our NCAA pole vault champion of 2022 and the outdoor championships. She got an invite to qualify for the World Athletes Championships. She was originally listed as an alternate, but was called up when they had one participator in the pole vault back out and withdraw from the event. Gabby gets a chance to go back up to where she achieved her success up in Eugene, Oregon, on the Hayward Field up there to take part in the pole vaulting. So, congratulations, Gabby. You snuck in there, but remember, there was a horse in the Kentucky Derby a couple months ago.
That's right.
They didn't think it was going to get in, but it got in the last minute and surprised a lot of people. So, go up there and give them L, Gabby. That's what I can tell you. That'll do it for another Cardinal couple. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll be catching back with you guys, of course, obviously next week. Until then, everybody have a safe and fun 4th. And remember, if you're going to drive impaired, make sure it's just up and down the driveway, okay?
Or not even that.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, depending on how big your driveway is. So thanks everybody for listening.